Um, so I'm super villaining it up. I'm over here being the worst person on the fucking planet. So with that being said, everybody just recognize that I want it known that there is evil, authentic evil emanating from this stream, um, and what I don't know why you're here. You must be evil too for watching me, and definitely should be canceled along with me. So anybody who's friends with me as a cultist and also bad and wrong. With that in mind, all those disclaimers out of the way, because I've found this out about myself recently. So I have to be honest. I have to live my truth. I am the worst person on the planet. So with that being said, everybody, we'll be talking probably the last stream about Project 2025. And if you want to be involved in the actual discussion, then feel free to hit me up for a join link. But the general vibe of this is going to be trying to hit the last points and get this fucking thing done so that we can move on to discussing philosophy. And then maybe we'll do at some point a stream about some of the sins of Kamala and fucking Tim Wells. I like saying Kamala because it's funny, but it's also wrong. Like, it's Kamala, but like everybody who wants to say her name apparently now says Kamala, and I think Camel is mildly misogynist. So I'm trying to get canceled. Somebody please cancel me. With all that being said, let's start with introductions. We'll do Kareem, Hody, Rose, and we'll also use this as a sound check, which I should have done at the beginning. So, wob, beginning. So, wob, beginning. So,
Kareem? Right. Well, I'm Kareem6633 on the Twitters.
All right, cool.
Anarch Unity, you know it. Also, check out Attack the System with Keith Preston and my channel, The Essential Libertarians. And how you pronounce the vice president is, Montel Williams calls her side piece. So I think we can just use that.
I'm not fully familiar with Montel Williams, but the name rings a cunt bell in my brain that makes me think I've dismissed him as a cunt before. I don't know. Either way, with that being said, let's go to Hody and then Rose.
I'm Hody Johns. I'm with the Love First Christians, friends with Jeremiah, Kareem, and Rose, and probably you if you are listening. We should be in for a good stream tonight. I'm excited to kind of wrap up Project 2025. I love how thorough Jeremiah is about these kind of things. He doesn't like missing any bullet points. Even if we've shot the thing to heck, he's like, there's still some piece of scrap there that isn't totally disintegrated. So it'll be fun to kind of polish off this dead horse and turn it into glue. And I'm excited for that tonight.
Yeah, because like my hedgehog persona's got like a little blood on his mouth. It's because I'm always eating corpses. Rose.
I'm Rose, patron saint of real libertarians, evil Jeremiah cultist. I like to spend my time review bombing games that I'm told to review bomb.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. And if I didn't say so, if I didn't say something, that game would be beloved the world over. I am such a bad person.
That's the thing. Like I just do whatever the cult leader says. Like yeah. I have no thoughts of my own. I just play the game, and I can't possibly find it good because if I'm told it's bad, clearly it must be bad because the cult leader said so.
Exactly. It's all operant conditioning, because you see, once you remove all external stimulus, then all becomes subsumed to the order that you want to produce. It's MK Ultra shit. So you just keep them in an isolation chamber and you shut them off from the outside world until they forget how to even hold in their piss. And then like they're so like blubbering and seeking for any sort of reification that their world exists that you can sort of overwrite their previous memories, and then they become the embodiment of what you want them to be. It's like then you just play a loop tape, maybe with some drugs influence, and you keep them in that that box that like with the eye covers and the ear covers. It's super easy. You just need to drug them first.
And they'll just write whatever reviews you want.
Yeah. I just like my army of haters. So
15,000 of them.
I mean, you could go on Fiverr and have people just write reviews.
Yeah, it would be fucking...
I used to do that.
But it wouldn't be the same because don't you have to pay people on, like, no, it's easier to just brainwash them.
Yeah. Yeah,
no, it's easier on Fiverr. You couldn't have me do it.
You gotta go get that scopolamine so that you can just them into your obedience. Scopolamine scares the shit out of me. Let me just real quick talk about scopolamine.
It's a paralytic.
Yeah, well, it's also a suggestivity.
Anticholinergic, yeah.
It lowers your inhibitions to the below the floor, and that scares the shit out of me. It means that whenever so if I see somebody,
really? I thought it was just a paralytic. Like I thought it was an anticholinergic that will cause delirium and paralysis.
The delirium is because it's increasing your suggestibility and lowering so what they use it for.
A fun way though, not like a benzodiazepine or alcohol or something.
Not in a fun way.
Yeah.
I will literally get nervous and try to avoid somebody on the street if I see them suspiciously clutching a fist, because I don't want a powder from that fist to blow into my face or some shit like that. Or if I see somebody with some vague powder on them, I will give them an extra berth and I will hold my breath, because I don't want to even remotely ever breathe in scopolamine or anything like it. And all you gotta do...
Is the plant native to this area?
It doesn't need to be. It's one of the things is it's very well known for this effect. So gangs use it, hitmen use it. It's very common in the underground.
I did not know this. I thought there were much better drugs if you want to incapacitate someone.
The reason this works is because it's a surprise and nobody really expects it. So you can deploy it really easily. It's something that very few people know about or will ask questions about. If you look suspiciously white powdery, they might just assume it's cocaine or some shit and leave you alone. But yeah, it's real bad. It's like aerosolized Rohypnol. It's very ungood.
Shit, now I'll be paranoid about this.
Yeah, see, I make things worse for people.
Yes.
Ever since I heard about scopolamine, it freaked me out, and I'm freaked out. And it's a phobia, because, most people aren't going to have scopolamine, but I feel like scopolamine is right there around that bush.
Well, now all your viewers know about this.
Yeah! See, I make things worse.
Including your haters who are frustrating currently over this.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Well, and that's going to be the gold. Is when somebody adds me to their dumb fuck piece of shit video game, and the way to get past me is to hurl scopolamine at me or whatever. Even though this is very niche information and it's not something I even usually think about, it's one of those things. It built this mechanism into me. If I'm walking on the street, I'll definitely give people wider berth than some people might, because I don't want whatever they have, It's not even I social distance voluntarily if I see something that looks suspiciously like they might be about to blow powder in my face. Yeah, it's one of those things. And I've had nightmares too where I'm under the influence of scopolamine, because it was described vividly enough to me by victims of it that I'm okay, my subconscious now knows how to simulate that, and I'm gonna have night terrors occasionally about scopolamine. Yeah.
Damn, I thought there were scarier drugs out there, but I'm gonna have to do some reading.
There are, but it's still.
What does scopolamine? I don't know.
Yeah, right. So with that being said, and with the people who joined this suspicious about the contents of the rest of the stream, I assure you this is about Project 2025, which is, if we're being honest, the scopolamine of politics. Oh, giving us we don't want that. They're gonna take us along for a ride. It's drugging us. Anyway, I had to make it relate somehow, and I wasn't intending to talk about that, but now that we have, wild and crazy things can happen on this show. I'm gonna wait for Hody to get back to get started, but to recap, we've talked about like the general overview of most of it. We've even talked about the other shit in the other shit section, and we went over an overview from like some leftist organization that like gave us a PDF of it, like of the higher notes. And so we've gone over a significant amount of it, and now we've got plenty more to go over. But the first thing that I want to mention is that there was another Trump assassination attempt, and he missed again. And so the thing that I'm going to say is definitely, don't try to kill the president. That isn't good. I have to say that because, like, the more of this kind of thing happens, the more likely it is that we'll, like, be put on a watch list or some shit for, like, talking shit about Trump. So, fucking, like, don't try to kill the president. But...
Definitely not. That's a very, very bad thing to do. Very bad.
But he is doing, like, fucking internment camps, concentration camps for fucking migrants. He is, like, setting up a registry for a bunch of different shit, including people on his side and people off of it. He is restricting speech and restricting any program that might help his political opponents. He is doing fascism and increasing the likelihood that violence will be committed to people on the opposite team. He is being a piece of shit, but definitely don't do anything in return. We would never...
We are big believers in the democratic process here.
Yeah.
We believe that you should get out and vote your conscience, and it'll all be fixed.
I like how...
Jill Stein, though. Only Jill Stein.
I like how vote your conscience sounds like vaguely a masturbation metaphor. I'm gonna go vote my conscience. I gotta get the tissues. Anyway.
Well, it is now.
Yeah. Well, now you've got something dismissive to say. Like somebody, you needed to dismiss them, and you're just like, "I'll go vote your conscience."
Go vote my conscience.
Yeah.
Or okay, yeah, go vote your conscience.
Yeah, I'd rather go vote my conscience than talk to you. So, anyway, so with that being said, the next segment, anybody want to give any recaps of things that stuck out to them before, that they want to like re-highlight, and if not, we'll just get started.
Where did we leave off last time?
We left off at actually I don't even have the thing pulled up right now. And I don't remember. So like let me get organized temporarily here. I've been too focused on epic elite game reviews lately and like ripping apart somebody's file to find out all their dirty little secrets. So
I remember thinking last time that one of the themes for me was, hey, let's get rid of the hate crimes against X, Y, and Z people, but let's add hate crimes against like
whites,
Christians and whites. That's something that's you shouldn't do something about. But let's stop. Let's stop letting trans people be protected.
Or getting rid of hate crime legislation, and also making it so that you can prosecute, like people who implement DEI policies under the Discrimination Act, or rather the Civil Rights Act. Yeah, I vaguely remember now.
So, we finished off with fucking... I think we just did law enforcement, so now we're on national security. Project 2025 would require the U.S. DoD to abolish its DEI programs and immediately reinstate all service members discharged for not getting vaccinated against COVID-19. The U.S. Armed Forces would not be authorized to take climate change into account, evaluating national security threats. Project 2025 identifies China as the leading threat to U.S. NatSec. It also expresses concern over China's influence on American society and recommends banning the social network TikTok, which it accuses of espionage, and the Confucius Institutes, which it accuses of corrupting American higher education. The project also expresses concerns over Chinese IP theft and accuses big tech of acting on the behalf of the Chinese Communist Party to undermine the U.S. American pension funds would be encouraged to avoid Chinese investments, and American companies seeking to invest in sensitive sectors in China would face restrictions or denial of permissions.
Banning TikTok is weak. Whenever both sides of a political aisle want to do something, you can be pretty sure that it's a messed up, big government, tyrannical statist thing to do. And I am looking at you, immigration, when I talk about this. But yeah, it's whenever you have both sides of the aisle totally in agreement on an issue, that's when libertarians should feel the hairs in the back of their neck prick up a little bit, because this is just something that, again, Joe Biden got into it, Trump got into it. It's big government, not even once, guys. I'm not saying TikTok's great. They got problems, whatever. We can go into all of that, but as soon as we get to government, please censor this for us. I don't care how bad that thing is. The government's going to use the power they get to censor other stuff that you go, oh, but I really liked that. It is dumb to think that these platforms that, oh no, they're encouraging kids to, be trans, but we got to ban them for it. Well, they're also the ones that told the truth about the Wuhan labs, and then all of a sudden government can ban that too. Shooting yourself in the foot, guys. Stop doing it.
But
it's funny, conservatives want it. The conservatives are pushing the TikTok ban when they're the ones who, they originally were the ones trying to censor everything. Then Democrats were in office for 8 years, and suddenly they feel like they're being censored, and now all of a sudden they're all about free speech. Now they're the ones constantly complaining about getting banned and censored and kicked off of platforms. And now they want to give the state this giant foot in the door to ban entire social media platforms. Like, these people do not learn, and they do not think ahead.
And also just to because I have to say this, because Hody committed a microaggression here. This is my righteous indignation sound. You used the word prick. That's an anti-male slur. I'm gonna have to fine you 30 Trump bucks for misandry.
Did I say it?
Yeah, you said their ears prick up. Yeah, we know what you mean, fucking man-hater.
Oh, the hairs prick up on the back of my neck. Oh, yep, yeah, you're right. Yeah. I will voluntarily ban myself.
Yeah.
See you guys.
You gotta go to the internment camp now and, hang out with the brown people.
It's been nice knowing you.
Kareem's like, yeah, fucking I'll just self-organize over there. My homies down there of Melanin Nation. So, Kareem, you got anything on the NatSec grounds?
Yeah, I was just going to say, they haven't learned anything from the Patriot Act. They're like, oh, 10 years later, censorship was a bad idea. Espionage was a bad idea. Maybe this will be used against me. Oh, maybe the TikTok ban will be used against you too. Maybe censorship will be used against you. Already has. And it's kind of funny to me that there are no really, other than Bastion, maybe, free speech platforms that really exist. I don't know. Maybe Gab is. I haven't spent enough time on there. Huh?
Nope. Gab bans people for not towing their hyper-conservative line. And it's full of a bunch of Nazis who want to control speech anyway. So, it's in terms of practicality, the hardware isn't decentralized, isn't, actual free speech platform to begin with. And then, you add to the fact that they, act on that, and then the primary user base there is just Nazis who hate free speech anyway. It's not a free speech platform. It's just Nazis.
Nazis or boomer cons? I thought it was all boomer cons.
It's mostly Nazis. Boomer cons are definitely there, but there's a significant presence of Nazis. If you scroll at all, you'll see a Nazi. It's just you see a Trump post, right? But then it's just but this is what we should do to the Jews and the trannies, and it's very much just Nazis, and then the boomer cons will just be the people that they have there for filler, and usually those people are also retweeted, regabbed, recroaked, I don't fucking care, by the Nazis. So it's either you're a Nazi or you're helping a Nazi if you're on Gab.
Okay. Yeah, I think I've been to the site once, so.
This right here, Kareem, is when I talk about you bringing an animal home where you're like, can I keep it? And we're like, no, it stays outside. You're trying to bring Gab home. We tell you it has to stay outside.
I'm not trying to bring Gab home. Look, all I'm saying is this. There's no free speech platforms other than Bastion. Really, I know people will say, oh my God, X is free speech. Elon fighting the deep state. And it's anti-conservative opinion. I'm like, oh, wait. He just flipped the script. So
Odyssey is pretty good, though.
Odyssey's okay. Odyssey's having financial problems, from what I understand.
Yeah, but like everybody's gonna do that. Like this economy sucks, asshole. You know, and like SEC violations are, you know, notwithstanding, like this economy is still gonna make things suck. And like if when the economy improves, they'll probably have enough income to handle the SEC bullshit and fucking continue.
I have a couple videos on Rumble, but I don't feel it's actually completely free speech.
It's not. It's just they ban people all the time. It's a centralized alternative built more for conservatives. It's less likely to ban you for calling somebody a slur. That's what Rumble is, you know. Fucking so they suck, asshole. And like I have on Gab 4.3 thousand followers. I could use it. But I mostly don't, because a lot of those people are fucking Nazis, and I don't even remember how they got there. I think I just followed them and they followed back, because I was like mass following people in people's lists. But like I don't care about the platform, and whenever I post there, I almost guaranteeably get no feedback, because the Nazis don't like me, and that's what you have to do if you want to be real super successful on Gab. You gotta suck a Nazi knob. So
just like we'll just toss them a bone every once in a while, I guess. Just like occasionally write that they in 3 parentheses are doing something.
Yeah, I'll just occasionally like post like JQ to get people salivating.
Yeah. It's super easy with this crowd.
Yeah, like they don't need much. They don't need you to be consistent. They don't need you to be reasonable. They just need you to like use one of their fucking, I think the term is shibboleths. So like also the term shibboleth sounds Jewish, but I don't know if it is. Anyway, I've always thought that. Like I've always thought, is this like, the first time I saw it, I thought, is this like an anti-Semitic word? But it turns out it wasn't, but it still sounds Jewish.
I thought it was too. Yeah.
Okay. Pornography and adult content. I fucking put the emphasis on the wrong syllable. Pornography and adult content. In the foreword of Mandate, Kevin Roberts argues that imagine a guy named Kevin Roberts is talking to you about your sex. Like, hi, I'm Kevin Roberts. I'm here to tell you about what you should be touching yourself about.
Grooming is bad.
I have the name that suggests that I have the personality of beige. Argues that pornography promotes sexual deviance. The sexualization of children and the exploitation of women is not protected by the First Amendment to the U.S. and should be banned. He recommends the criminal prosecution of people and companies producing porn, which he compares to addictive drugs. Previously, the Supreme Court has ruled against attempts to ban porn on First Amendment grounds. In Vox, journalist Andrew Prokop, I'm pretty sure that's a very unfortunate name because he sounds like a leftist and he writes for Vox, but his name is Prokop. I'm not making that up. Maybe it's Prokop, but it's right there. I had to say it. Roberts also adds that porn is manifested today in the omnipresent propagation of transgender ideology and sexualization of children, suggesting that he may define pornography much more broadly than is typical, that he may view any attempt to explain or teach about trans people as worthy of outlawing and punishment, imprisonment. So, yeah, that statement is brought to you by khakis. When the Republican Party nominated him for president in 2016, Trump signed a pledge to examine the, quote, public health impact of internet porn on youth, families, and the American culture. He did not fulfill this promise. But despite the affairs Trump was alleged to have had in 2006 with adult film actress Stormy Daniels and Playboy model Karen McDougal, Roberts was unconcerned, telling CNN, "We understand our Lord works with imperfect instruments, including us. While on the surface it seems like a contradiction, on the whole it may make him a more powerful messenger if he embraces it."
Oh my god. You know, okay, this is such a classic example of conservatives projecting their personal moral failings onto everyone else. Like, most people are not getting so addicted to porn that they can't let go of their cock for 2 seconds so that they can, take care of their families or hold down a job or something. Okay?
Do you think Oh, sorry.
Go for it.
Do you think Prokop has an OnlyFans?
I'm sure. I am sure. And I'm sure this guy in particular spends a ton of money on OnlyFans, and that's why he wants it banned, because he can't control himself and wants the state to hold his hand and take care of him.
Babe.
And he's
spending
$10K on feet pics.
Andrew Prokop is writing against Roberts. He was.
Oh, okay. Never mind then.
Yeah, he's a Vox guy. I'm pretty sure you can't be a Republican and write for Vox.
Right.
But to be clear, we now know that Kareem wants to see his Prokok, so...
Look, okay. I have a few issues with the porn industry in general. I think it's highly predatory and it's highly exploitative. However, banning it is not the answer, okay? Making something illegal it doesn't remove the demand. It's just going to make the market go underground. And then we're going to have even more human trafficking and more, obviously, more porn produced by people who are obviously not consenting.
Hodie's probably got some words.
A lot. So if you want to, I'm going to recommend a book that is really sex positive and really talks about relationships that God has blessed that are maybe unorthodox, sometimes involve a lot of sexuality, and that book's called The Bible. So there is a lot of sexual deviancy in the Bible. Anybody that says marriage is between man and a woman is quoting a very early verse in the Bible, and I'm not necessarily saying that verse is untrue as far as how procreation works, but as far as how relationships work, things really break the frick down in that same book of the Bible. And you can read it and just see it for yourself. If you think on a religious grounds that the Bible's against pornography or prostitution, might I remind you that Mary Magdalene was called Mary Magdalene the prostitute, not the ex-prostitute, until her dying day. And Jesus saw fit to hang out with her. Now, here's the thing about sex and stuff like that. What is good for the goose is not necessarily good for the gander. People are different kinds of people. I'm a one-on-one relationship kind of guy. I would not be good in an open relationship or with a harem. I wouldn't be good sharing my gal with a dude. And that doesn't work for me. But it does work for other people. Just like how it would be a sin for me to be gay, it would be a really bad sin to try and make... I'm trying to think of somebody really Barney Frank straight. It would be a sin for him to be straight. And so just like that, Romans 1, which oftentimes gets cited to go against sexuality, talks about the crime of actually making people go against their nature. Keep in mind that in most of the Bible, we're overcoming our sinful nature. But when it comes to sexuality, the Bible actually recognizes that the way God made us is part of our identity and part of who we are when it comes to sexuality. And making somebody repress that or trying to change who they are because of that isn't right. And so when we're talking about this, the trans issue is another one, but when we're talking about this issue, we're talking specifically about sexuality, right? And pornography. Listen, on some people's hands, that is going to be crack cocaine. It's going to be something that leads them to idleness. It's going to plague their relationships with their family members or with it's going to jade what they think sexual relationships should be. It's going to get them addicted to a vision that is not at all accurate. To some people, though, it might actually be useful and helpful to them. I would point people to the Bible verse says that the way we judge stuff is to see the fruits it produces. If pornography has not produced good fruits of the Spirit, then leave it. If it has, then keep it. As Rose said, my problems with pornography often involve that the industry kind of tends to be scummy. But it's kind of like the video game industry right now is scummy. Playing video games isn't really all that problematic. unless, again, you could get addicted, right? Game responsibly out there, everybody. And of course, there are games that are designed to kind of be cruel or teach a bad message, something like that. So game responsibly. But the industry being bad doesn't mean that the medium itself is bad. I mean, Christianity right now is in the middle of a hellscape. But I love God. I love religion. The base material's great. We just have kind of a culture problem right now. So when it comes to pornography, Christians, come on, man. Don't use the government. Like, that should just be a baseline obvious, because they ban that, they can ban something else. But also from a moral perspective, you're not reading your own Bible. It doesn't make sense.
Right. Yeah, addiction in general is a huge issue in the society, but that it indicates much deeper issues than something simply being available. Okay? You could make all drugs available over the counter. Most people would not become addicted to cocaine or heroin because, again, addiction indicates that there's a much deeper problem in your life. Right. And that's why you're turning to the one thing that gives you enjoyment and allows you to escape from whatever your current reality is.
Also, go.
No, it's funny because I've heard this argument made by, I guess he would be he's a less, how do I say this, harmful version of Nick Fuentes. His name is John Doyle, and he has this show called Heck Off Commie. And they've always argued ban pornography, ban pornography, ban pornography. And I'm like, here's the thing, addiction or not, when you ban something, it always goes underground. It's even with these people who are like well-meaning. Like, I even got an argument with like some libertarians like Josh Smith. Like, look, if you ban abortions, they'll go underground. People will figure out there'll be some procedure doing somewhere that's going to be worse than what's going on. And I'm not saying set thing is good. You know, I don't particularly like vaping, and then people blow like a strawberry cloud of like propylene glycol everywhere, and like, man, don't do this. But I know if we ban vaping will go underground. So I think best thing to do is say, hey, here's how I got over my vice. Here's how you can do that too, and help them through the free market, as opposed to putting endless legislature to make society better than you actually think it is. Because generally what happens is all these people who are saying, oh, I'm against pornography, I'm against these type of things, I'm against homosexuality, turn out to be doing the most extreme, like these conservative Christian preachers are like, man, I don't like, don't be gay. And then they're like in a bathroom, like trying to grab it, like this dude. I forgot. My dad used to watch Bill Maher, How I Found Ron Paul, so I guess that's cool. I don't like him. He's like an annoying liberal Zionist, but
I used to.
I used to like him, but this dude, like conservative dude, like stuck his foot under the thing, and this guy was like, I guess, signaling he wanted to do stuff, and he was rampantly against like homosexuality. So it just goes to show me, I bet you half of these guys are like, as my bandmates.
Oh, that's tame. There was like at one point like one of those like rabidly anti-gay preachers who was found dead from autoerotic asphyxiation, like hog-tied dangling from the ceiling with a ball gag in his mouth and a dildo up his ass.
Yes, shit like that. So
yeah,
it's funny to me that these people, A, don't understand it'll go underground. B, I bet you have all this stuff like repressed and can't get over that. So to me, it's never going to work. It was never a good idea anyway. Banning stuff just doesn't work.
Right. It's always funny when people who call libertarians try to make an exception for their one thing that they don't like. Because they'll acknowledge, they'll be like, yeah, okay, the war on drugs failed. Okay, but surely we have to ban this one thing. That's like the one thing we should be using the state for. It's like, you fucking idiot. It's not going to work in this case either.
Yeah, and like there's levels to this shit too, because it's not going to get banned everywhere all at once. So what you'll have is people VPNing into other states, then other countries, and like all that's going to do is create an underground market. And it's also going to mean that when these people like try to do this shit, they'll be like, oh, well, now we have to ban VPNs, and then you won't have any privacy when you say base shit online. And it's like the whole thing, it's not for porn. It never is. It's designed to have massive control over infrastructural elements. They don't give a shit about porn.
Yeah, and here's the interesting thing too.
Yeah,
TikTok, you know what you could do? I thought about this. You could A, get a VPN, or B, someone could put on something like WeTransfer or on I can't remember what the New Zealand server is that Jeremiah had. Mega. You can put on Mega an APK of TikTok to run it. So all you do is you go to Mega, you take the APK, you put it on your phone, and then you install the APK, and that works. How are you going to ban like an APK that you can run?
These people would like to go after VPNs and Tor browser, or the Tor network rather. Like, yeah, they don't want people to be able to have privacy on the internet. Like they've already said, oh, we need to have like real ID when you're browsing the internet. So, yeah, again, the TikTok ban is just a foot in the door. Yeah. Because then we'll start bypassing the ban. Then they're going to start saying that we need to go after VPNs.
But Rose, it can't be a foot in the door. Some people are into that.
A foot under a stall. Yeah,
right? Fucking just like see them toesies, getting them little piggy wigglies. Fucking the general vibe that I have is I don't like it when certain forms of communication get banned. But a significant amount of the pornographic industry is dedicated and devoted to elevating some of the worst, least realistic standards. And for me personally, I would still say generally try not to. I think that drawings are more reasonable, and that so is other artistic expressions. I think that the further away it gets from an actual human performing that sort of thing, the better. And I think that when you start getting into the human end of it, like when dudes see that and that's all they know, it's so hard for them to get hard for like a real woman. And if conservatives they really do have a point in this regard, that porn can have an impact on fertility levels, because it if you can't get it up, if you've got that ED because you spanked it for 18 years to people who were younger than that, then you don't have or at least looked like it, because we're talking the porn industry, then you have so little ground to stand on in actually having some sort of fucking pleasure with a woman your age or who looks like it, or who being a dude who isn't just going to be like, I'm going to jack off to this for a few minutes and then that'll be it. You actually have to make her happy if you want it to last. And you've got unrealistic performance on your part because you're used to training the wrong horse. You've got unrealistic standards on her part because you're used to thinking of the wrong horse. And in general, you're not very good at the actual sex, and it does fuck shit up. So I'm not being pro porn, let me just fucking watch 18,000 cocks get sucked by some slut. I'm thinking it's still not great, but fuck the government anyway. Wow.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I more or less agree. I think people, I've encountered people who are porn brain. Yeah, they completely lose their ability to, one, be attracted to actual humans, and to see women as actual humans as opposed to sex objects. So it's not wrong. Yeah, porn addiction is a thing, and I think porn does in a lot of ways create unrealistic ideas of what sex is. But again, yeah, banning it's not the answer.
I think what the answer is they should try to, and then I can hire Jeremiah to, instead of a snake with "Don't Tread on Me," have a Sasha Grey picture and say "Don't tread on me" and sell it on print on demand.
Yeah, right. So, but the general vibe is, I don't promote it, but at the same time, I don't think it should be banned. It's sort of like I tell people don't do cocaine, but it doesn't mean that I want the war on drugs, you know? I tell people don't get drunk, but it doesn't mean that I want prohibitions and speakeasies to return. It's fucking simple, y'all. It's not your body, it's not your choice.
Speakeasies were awesome.
It's not your body, it's not your choice, on the performance end or on the consumption end. Now, here's the thing. If there are kids, you deserve to lose everything, including your life.
Yeah, I mean, that's something else entirely. It's just, well, most people don't need to be told this, though. It seems like conservatives who are the most obsessed with, yeah. Conservatives who are the most obsessed with pedophilia, and you start to wonder why, because most people don't need to be told that that's a bad thing. It's just one of those things that's obvious to most normal, psychologically healthy people.
But then these conservatives, at the same time as they're promoting this, they'll also like pump up some fucking cunt like Matt Walsh talking about how 16-year-old girls are adults.
Or, oh yeah, they should be. Yeah, they should get married. It's better for them to get married at a young age.
And like, or like Nick Fuentes talking about how he wants a sweet, untouched, like innocent, like. There's another word he used, but it's also gross that he used it. Fucking 16-year-old. I think it was a 16. It might be. I think it was 15. Actually, I don't remember. I'll look it up and get back to y'all about what kind of pedo Nick Fuentes is. But like,
did he say he wanted to groip her with the groipers?
Yeah, and like that's it. It makes it real like sus that that's what they call themselves. But also, he literally said he wanted to wait, and this is the real creep-ass shit. He said he wanted to wait until he was 30 and then get a 15-year-old, I think. So he is like, oh, yeah, fucking... It's so gross. We got a comment. R ad hominem says, if TikTok or porn is the foot in the door, the new WHO treaty is the nuke. One moment, I will look this up, because I actually don't know what the fuck you're saying, so I want to know what the fuck you're saying. And there's character limits in the chat, so I understand why you didn't like deliver me and the exegesis over here. But like, the new WHO, God, my computer just will not shut up. I'm gonna shut it up before we continue. There we go. All right. There has to be a way to suppress notifications. I think there must be, and I'm gonna try to look at that right now here.
Notifications for what?
My computer will occasionally randomly scan for viruses.
Yeah. It always wants to do it at the worst time too.
Yeah. I think I'll just clear all my notifications because I don't give a shit about any of those, and I think that'll stop it from yelling at me. So if you mean the pandemic preparedness treaty, then let me look at this response accord, resume negotiations, pandemic treaties. Yeah, okay. So let me look at this. Because this might be a subject for a whole nother video. You might have just prompted content. And I'm sticking my finger in your face as a reward. Some people are into that. Fucking... I just... That'll be the subtitle for this show. Some people are into that. Preparedness and response accord. Let me just...
Finger in face edition.
Yeah. You can see the fact that I'm not very good with my fingernails. This is what Kenneth Copeland did. He like... For his COVID response, he like coated his fingers in oil and then in people's face, COVID be gone, demon, and then it didn't work because he's fucking evil. So yeah, preparedness, what is meant by blah blah, convention agreement or okay, so decide in light of the impact process to draft and negotiate a new convention agreement blah. Oh, I hate it when they do that. This is a convention or agreement. In light of this, they decided to get an agreement. So, fuck you. The need to ensure communities, governments, and sectors of society within... Shut the fuck up. Are better prepared. Why are such international arguments and instruments needed in global public health? What is the process? God, I hate this guy already. Like, it's fucking... it's like this WHO YouTube video. And this guy's one of those guys who's like in a business casual shirt, and he's got his legs crossed way too tightly. It makes it seem like he doesn't have a cock, or like he's hiding what it's doing behind his knee. Anyway, December.
You're talking about a polo shirt?
No, it's like a white shirt, but it's like there's no suit jacket. There's no like anything. It's just like a white shirt with a tie. Fucking So let me just. I'm gonna see if there's anything at all here. I'm gonna lean forward a little. What is the role? Core policy. Who else is? What is the timeline? Is the current? This isn't telling me jack fucking shit. So I'm gonna click off of this and go click a different link. The House of Commons what is the blah blah? This was apparently posted in May. We'll go over this. This will be an episode because it sounds das ist sehr interessant, as I was trained to say in German by the fucking app. Fucking March 2021, a group of blah blah. What is being proposed? The main goal is treaty fostering all of government and all of society approach strengthening national. So you basically just want everybody on the same page, and you're probably going to stop people from not being on the same page. Okay. Could include promoting high-level political commitment and whole-of-government, whole-of-society approaches addressing equity, enhancing the One Health approach, and strengthening health systems and their resilience. That doesn't sound at all fucking... Okay, so what does the treaty say? Negotiating such issues as blah blah, all of these things that are like relating to like definitions, how it will work. But like this is the start of a treaty, then it's not like an actual official treaty. It's just like their exploratory committee, I guess. How to achieve equity in the global supply chain for pandemic related products. That kind of makes sense, but like I don't know how they're gonna fucking implement that shit, especially since fucking Bill Gates wanted to cunt up the shit and say, Oxford, hey yo, don't make this fucking free and open in public domain. Definitely keep this profitable. I think it was Oxford. It was either Oxford or MIT. I don't care. It was one of them that are fucking smart ass fucks. And like they were developing a vaccine and they came out with one and he was like, no, don't release it to the public domain and make it generic and cheap. You've got to profit off this shit. So if by get equity they mean anything other than genericize the cure, then they can suck a fucking spike. Anyway, we'll go over that. It sounds bad. But that's not relevant to Project 2025, so we'll go over that in a stream that's not that. But hey, if Trump does get in, we'll have Trump in charge of that, so that'll be awesome. He did the last lockdown so well. That being said, the next segment is women's reproductive health, which is, I guess, why Kareem left the room. He's like, icky.
I'm an ANCAP man and ANCAP stand.
But you've got your camera off, so...
Yeah, no.
Yeah, so you're jacking off. That's the rule. If anybody has their camera off, they're jacking off, and they don't want us to... They're...
I'm an
we know women's reproductive health is a very hot subject.
Yeah, he's now lubin with tubin. So he says...
Prims don't believe in that.
He says, oh shit, my bad. No, it's not your bad. You know, part of the thing with these streams is I'm kind of unhinged. And so, like, the topics we'll get... We started this whole thing off talking about scopolamine. That has nothing to do with this, so... But we'll talk about... You know, that might actually be a good subject for one of the other streams. Well, I mean... drugs and bad drugs, like how... Like, not the fun ones... The ones that are used by governments and organizations to influence people actually would make a good stream to terrify people with. So, like, we could talk about the poisons that like were used on Navalny and other Russian like rebels. We could talk about a whole bunch of shit. So yeah, I mean that. But like this this pandemic treaty, I'll look into it and I'll get some bullet points and we'll talk about it on a stream sometime at home. Like, share, and subscribe if you ain't already, but you've been here for a bit. By the way, you're evil because you're watching my streams and you don't hate me. So, good.
Clearly, you're gonna go review bomb someone's game. Some poor developer who made a quality game that they spent months on.
It's so fucking pathetic. But yeah, Ad Hominem's been here forever. I remember him from years ago. I think 3 or 4 at least. Reinhold, what if we watch this stream but do hate you? Well then, I hope you enjoy your wank. I do have because I'm about to do some roofing jobs tomorrow, so I do have the right level, the appropriate level of musk grease in my hair, so that if you really wanted to have a hate bait in the section, you could I can see the grease in your hair, and that's making my hand a little bit too sweaty. Reinhold says it's a hate wank, the best kind of wank. Yes, but do you want on to discuss this last section? We're almost done. We're talking women's reproductive health, but we've been talking about Project 2025. It would be up to you. I know it's kind of late. We got started late because of a bunch of bullshit that came up today, so... but either way, let me know. Project 2025's proponents maintain that life begins at conception. The mandate says that the Department of Health and Human Services should return to being known as the Department of Life, as Trump Secretary Alex Azar... As Trump Secretary Alex Azar nicknamed it in January 2020, voicing his pride in being part of the most pro-life administration in this country's history. Every section of this fucking shit just sounds like it was written by a pair of khakis. Project 2025 says it would reposition department policies by explicitly rejecting the notion that abortion is healthcare, and by restoring its mission statement under the Trump strategic plan and elsewhere to include furthering the health and well-being of all Americans from conception to natural death. What if it's unnatural death? Does Trump not care at that point? If you murder somebody, I could murder somebody in the middle of Fifth Avenue and nobody not lose a supporter. He did say that. Maybe that's why. Maybe if it's an unnatural death, you can get away with it. So really, this is about abortion. This is co-signing unnatural death. Kill babies. That's what this is saying. Don't do that. Don't kill babies. That's what Trump wants. Anyway. 2022, the Supreme Court ruled in Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization that the Constitution does not confer a right to abortion. Therefore, I said therefore. It's thereby. It's right there. I can read, I promise. Leaving it to the states to create their own legislation on the matter. But Project 2025 encourages the next president, quote, to enact the most robust protections. Robust always makes me think of peppers. For the unborn that Congress will support. Project also says the Dobbs decision is just the beginning. Conservatives should push as hard as possible to protect the unborn in every jurisdiction in America. That just makes me think that they're banging while pregnant. Push it as hard as possible. You shouldn't have to push that hard. Anyway, Heritage Foundation Vice President of Domestic Policy, Roger Severino, told a Students for Life conference that Project 2025 was working on these sorts of executive orders and regulations to roll back Biden's abortion policies and institutionalize the post-Dobbs environment. For example, the Reproductive Healthcare Access Task Force, RATF. That's fucking hilarious. RATF. Anyway, President Biden created would be replaced by a dedicated pro-life agency that would, quote, use their authority to promote the life and health of women and their unborn children. So, I'll get to the next section after we're done saying words about that one.
So, by promote, do they mean they would actually, take on financial responsibility for all the prenatal care and labor and delivery fees and then care for the infant after it's been born?
We'll schedule that in.
Yeah, these people want every pregnancy carried to term, but very few of them are actually willing to contribute to making that happen.
And then after the baby's born, don't give it health care, don't give it a school lunch, don't treat it at all well. Just like it's there, now it can get shot out into the workforce and join the meat grinder. We need more blood for the blood god. We need more blood for the blood god. More blood for the blood god.
We need adrenochrome. That's why we need these babies brought into the world.
Yes, we need adrenochrome. I need to feel paranoid, and that's why I inject shit.
Yeah. And hey, man, be a conservative pro-lifer. Abortion's bad. But it's okay to bomb a whole village of people. That's okay. There's no problem with that.
I wonder...
They're against transgender surgeries, but it's okay, for murdering kids in the Middle East.
I wonder...
Well, they deserved it because one time 15 years ago, some of them voted for a terrorist group, so therefore they're all collectively guilty and we can bomb them. We can kill babies in foreign countries. That's totally different.
Baby genital mutilation, baby mutilation is okay as long as they're brown.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hody.
So I worked in a clinic when I was at the hospital, and we conducted a lot of abortions at this hospital. This was in Aurora, just on the outskirts of Denver.
I just did a licking motion at the wrong time. That was unintentional, but go ahead.
You're thinking of the stem cells.
Yeah,
the delicious stem cells.
Just like fucking, we did abortions, and I was like, can go. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's okay. So I was, at the time, I was doing IVs and EKGs. I was never an official nurse's aide, though. I served in similar capacity. I was an EMT. I got my paramedic 2 license and didn't really enjoy riding on the ambulance. So when they were like, "Hey, do you want to, work at a hospital to just do IVs and EKGs?" I was like, "Oh, sure." So I already had my licensing for those as part of the paramedic 2 program, and so it was cool, except abortions were hard. And I will tell you this, I totally understand why you might not like abortions. I do not like abortions, and this is one of those things where I kind of get the whole, I start to sound a little bit conservative, because it is, there's something about it I can't, and I don't think I ever will be able to tell you exactly why I don't like it, because I think it's, when we say, when does life begin? Oh, well, it's got technically DNA. And it's like, well, we have food products with different DNA. I mean, trying to make it specific almost makes it worse. The more you try to define it, the more we begin to talk about math and less about the fact that these are human beings. So I understand why you may not like abortion. I actually stopped, I actually left the hospital and actually left the industry entirely. And this was actually just after they started with the vacuum, and they stopped doing the insert, and they snip the neck, and they pull the fetus out and everything. And the level of botches on those were not infrequent. And that's it. When you see a baby crying in a trash can that you legally are supposed to leave in the trash can, things get hard. Your morals get conflicted. Every single one of us had to see a therapist, and at some point the hospital was very active about it. Even after they started doing the abortions, the vacuum, and we started doing the procedures better, it's still not, people still have psychological issues with it. And I do think there is something about it there to just say, I don't think that this is a good thing. However, I think it's very easy to say that government is really, really bad at these solutions. Let's remember that Republicans, after Roe v. Wade got reversed, showed us exactly who they were and exactly the kind of legislations they were pushed for. So you as a libertarian might go, oh, well, of course they'll make exceptions for the times the mother's in danger. I mean, why wouldn't they? Of course they would. Well, they didn't. They had a chance and they didn't. And so we have seen what this looks like from them. And it's nightmarish and terrible and allows no room for nuance. I'm going to tell you something that I learned from, I'm telling you, firsthand experience. If you want to crack down abortions, I saw nobody that got an abortion that felt they had a security net for being a parent. If you want to cut down on abortions and it's a big deal to you, the best thing you can do is to be there for the person who's considering getting the procedure done. I don't care if it's a father, as a dad, as a whatever it may be. If you have, as a sister, mother, whatever, if you feel that you can go out and help somebody, you are greatly reducing the rate of abortions to basically about 0% from my experience. And I'm telling you, I've seen thousands of them. So I'm telling you that, like, of these thousands of people that I talked to, and when I say I did IVs, EKGs, I'm checking on people. I did vitals as well. That's every 4 hours. I'm walking in. If you've ever tried to sleep at a hospital and people won't stop bugging you, that's me, right? Because we have to be like, are you still alive? Let's check their vitals. And if you do die, we need to be able to be like, I just checked their vitals 3 hours ago, So you have to keep making sure. I'm checking on people. I'm talking with them. I know their situations. I'm getting to know these patients when they're in inpatient care. And so, like, it's just one of those things that I could tell the conservative solution on this just does not understand reality. There's such a disconnect from the reason that people get these abortions. Statistically, I believe the last numbers that I saw, and I actually just saw them like a month ago, that abortions are being committed 60% by white evangelical Christian females. Or signing themselves up. When I open that up just to all Christians, suddenly I'm looking at like 80%. You Christians do not have a culture of life, so you are trying to promote a government of life. Government is coercion by nature. Government only knows death. Right. Look at how badly they botched this. And I'm telling you, when you even look at some of the states and you want to say, well, I think they did it right, they worded it such that it was scary enough that suddenly doctors were like, well, you know what? I'm just not going to do it anyway because I'm scared of my liability on this. And so you are terrifying people that even in legitimate situations, they're not going to get procedures that they need to have done to save a life. I've seen the yuckiest I'm telling you, I have seen the yuckiest parts of abortion from a time when abortion was much less guaranteed and much less pretty than it is now. And I'm sure it's still not pretty now. I'm only saying this to tell you that I'm trying to relate here. I understand.
I was about to say, this is your chance to quote mine. Hody says abortion is pretty.
Yeah, right. Yeah. When it was when it looked a lot more brutal, when we're talking children crying in trash cans. And I'm telling you, the best way to prevent that circumstance from ever happening is to be there for them. Let people know they're not judged. Let people know they're loved. Let people know they are welcome. Let people know that even if you think it's a sin or mistake or whatever you got to say, they are welcome home, and you will help them and bless them and welcome them to be parents. Keep in mind the wonderful children that are born into the Bible out of wedlock. These people that deserve your love, and they don't exist because guess what? Abortions are really easy to commit. I promise I'm getting to the end of my spiel here, but it's kind of important, this part too.
No, go off as long as you need to.
Okay. Committing an abortion is really easy. On the Trail of Tears, the Native Americans knew of an ingestible plant that they could just eat and not give birth. And they did this because they didn't want to bring children into this scenario, into the hellscape that they were facing. Yet again, getting abortions because of the circumstance and not because they're just a bunch of baby-hating evil people. But again, very easy. So how are you going to prevent abortions? Well, you're going to have to all of a sudden, dram shop laws, people who work at restaurants, you know how this works. They're going to put you liable for it. So all of a sudden, I'm liable. If I'm liable for you to get a ride home, I'm certainly liable to make sure that I'm not serving pregnant people when I'm serving people drinks. That means I have to take unnecessary tests, just like I have to do unnecessary testing on people to see if they're inebriated or not, if I'm allowed to serve them alcohol at restaurants. These are highly invasive, unconstitutional laws. And listen, when they involve the police, you've seen the police. You've seen how the police behave and what they do in order to get the job done. You are getting a bunch of vagina inspectors that are owned by the police to see if people had an abortion. Is this really the path you want to go down? You can dislike it. I dislike abortion too. I think there's a problem with it. I stop at saying it's murder because I'm going to tell you, just as a guy who listens to the Holy Spirit, I think that if you look at like 15, fetuses in a petri dish versus one screaming baby in a crying building, think about that right now, and I'm telling you, I believe the Holy Spirit will tell you to save the baby. I do think that there is something about it, though, that is just not great to commit. I can't tell you exactly what it is. Like I said, the science is all over the place on this one.
Right.
But we could debate about that all day. The point is, we should debate about that all day in a market and not on Capitol Hill. Christians, you want to cut down on abortions? Me too. Best way to do it: show up at the home, show up at the places where people are considering getting these done, and instead of picketing and making them feel even more afraid, which is what brought them there in the first place, instead of holding hell over their heads or threatening them with damnation, give them a home. Tell them that you'll support them. Give them a place to be, and you will cut down on abortions more than you ever imagine. If you take all the money that we spent donating on anti-abortion campaigns, and you spent that money instead on supporting moms who are considering having abortions, we would have 2% of the abortions that we actually had over the last century. Think about that for a moment. It is unbelievable the damage that we do when we promote government invasion on this issue. Have your morality, be against abortion, that's fine, but please, please, please do not get government involved. They are not good at it. They hurt people, and it's ineffective.
Yeah, and
right, like I've met maybe like 2 or 3 people who called themselves pro-life, who I actually respected because they actually walked the walk. Like they would fundraise and try to support women who were, had an unplanned pregnancy and felt like they were considering aborting primarily because they didn't feel like they could continue their pregnancies to term, mostly for financial reasons or because of reasons of not having the support network they needed. Like, look, I mean, I've been there. Like, my only child was not planned. Like, I could not bring myself to abort because it felt wrong, but I was also extremely lucky because I had a support network. Like, I had, a supportive partner. I had parents who still lived in the area who could help with childcare so I can continue to get my college degree. So, yeah, I mean, I couldn't imagine having to go through that without having that support network in place. Like, yeah, I would have ended up broke and destitute if I had not, ended the pregnancy. So, yeah, we need better, like, if you want to end abortion, I agree with Hody. Like, you need that support network. You need these people who, rather than pouring all their money into trying to ban abortion, offer up support for people who are pregnant and, offer up support for the babies once they're born. Yeah, you'll reduce abortion that way.
Yeah, and like, here's a personal story. Like, as a cock bearer, I can't like give birth, obviously, but like, generally speaking, my mother, and I'm not gonna belabor this point too much because I believe firmly that this is in the past. I'm not trying to fucking hold this over his head. My mother left my father. And she did it for pretty good reasons. And I'm not throwing him under the bus by saying this. My goal is not to like reinvigorate that. My goal is to talk about just briefly. It led to a series of events that basically meant I walked away from him personally. And I'm not going to get into any of it. But like, let's just say it has all the gravity of the situation that I'm trying to convey. And when he eventually tried to, and this has very little to do with abortion, but it has a point, I promise. When he, like, I just stopped talking to him for a significant period of time. And when we talked again, it was because he saw me on the sidewalk and fucking literally begged me to talk. And, like, so he saw me, he wanted to talk, and he says, look, I'll give you a ride back to your place, because I know you gotta catch, like, a bus. Like, son, please just let me talk to you. And one of the things that he said to me when he was on his sort of, what I call his repentance arc, his religare move, his trying to move against who he was One of the things he said was, maybe if I had been a better Christian example, none of this would have happened. And when I told my mom that he said that, she says, wow, that's actually true. And it's true in so many ways and in so many cases that if somebody actually lives closer to these alleged conservative Christian principles that they claim to have in fair weather, that generally speaking, they'll help the homeless, they'll help the needy, they'll keep people fed, they'll start, basically communes to assist those who need it. They'll create the material conditions by which those who don't have will have. And that's going to provide the material conditions by which people can be born. And simply, and it's also the other half of it. Fathers who are not good Christian examples produce, on a much higher likelihood, on a much greater scale, the kinds of children, both men and women, who are more sexually promiscuous because they didn't provide a good enough example to follow, and that example did not include being faithful. So they were a bad example. They were a bad, servant of Christ, or not even a servant of Christ at all, and they wonder why their mentality did not rub a good one off on their kid. It didn't create the good environment for their kid that their kid wanted to follow a more chaste or fucking abstinent or whatever mentality. Who wants to be like that asshole? I don't, so I'm going to rebel. So it creates this environment where sex, drugs, and rock and roll are the thing you do to rebel because you don't want to fit into this model, because it doesn't make sense to you, because what makes sense to you is how much it hurt that this was the model applied. So you're willing to do things to go against that. And somehow this environment of a lack of trust, of a lack of peace, of a lack of community, of a lack of reason and empathy with children creates this environment where they don't even feel like they have autonomy, and they'll seek it from any source that will give it to them. It creates the environment ripe for exploitation. It puts a lot of them into bad situations like porn. It puts a lot of them into bad situations like, fucking prostitution. It creates this environment. If you are not a good enough parent that your kid wants to follow your example toward the lifestyle that would not result in an abortion, consider that abortion on your head. I told you it was relevant, but I had to say that even though it was very fucking dark.
Mm-hmm. No, it's true. Talking about, it goes with what we said about support networks.
So, that's my statement on it. I don't know. And there's more to this abortion section as well, the women's healthcare section as well. But Kareem, do you got words?
I think I do. This is a tough subject too, because I agree with Hody that yes, obviously the process of doing it is horrific, and the procedure itself, I think a lot of people do abuse, and they abuse it for weird reasons, like, well, I want a girl, and I'm having a boy, or I want a boy, I'm having so selective abortion. Obviously, I'd be against, and I think most people, reasonable people, don't want to terminate a pregnancy if they were expecting it and actually have the means or the support network. That being said, I don't think the Republicans care about life for two reasons. If I've read stories where they force people who were going to be stillborn or had severe genetic, these people's kids had severe genetic issues, to carry the kid all the way. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Also, I'm seeing a whole lot now, all these pro-life, supposed, anti-woke warriors, I'm a fight my communism in America, and I have 10 flag lapel pins and whatever it is. They are completely fine with the military-industrial complex just leveling a whole nation. They're completely fine with war in a lot of circumstances if it is on the side of the United States or Western imperialism. And I don't hear them saying anything about Palestine, or Sudan or the Congo. Like, oh, well, what about those places? Aren't you guys pro-life? Also, I don't see that they really, really respect pro-life when it comes to, anyone who's on the left or anything like that. They're not pro-life if someone's kid is transgender. They're not pro-life sometimes if people are lesbian or gay or anything like that. They don't really seem to care about that. It seems what they care about are pro-life. So they're not pro-life, as George Carlin said, they're anti-women. They don't want women to, be seen as anything other than like, okay, you're just going to pop out kids. Also, I think they see birth as a mechanism to help the state. Like, oh yeah, we have more people in the meat grinder. Great. We have more people who can be part of the workforce of the military-industrial complex. That'll make my life easier. Or that'll be more, people in the Social Security or the tax system. But I think what they're missing is, if they really did care about life, then yeah, it would be helping people who are homeless. They'd be against war. I'd even go as far as they'd be against like things like, I'm not saying go vegan or be a militant vegan. I'm not Jeffrey Phillips. I see value in eating animal products and being animal based, but I do see value in not unnecessarily just killing animals or just sticking a bunch of chickens in like closed confinement and all this cage-free stuff. So you're going to actually be pro-life, and that would even relate to things I would call social ecology. Like, all right, let's not destroy the environment. Let's maybe say, hey, not just I'm going to reject lab-grown meat, but I'm going to reject lawns. I'm going to reject this stuff. If we really care about life, let's make a life that's worth living. Yeah. Let's stop unnecessarily violating the non-aggression principle so people don't lose theirs. Because they seem to be very, very okay with that. I rarely hear them say like, oh, you're pro-life. Okay, but what about the war in Ukraine? I don't care. NATO's good. Oh, what about the war? There's a ton of people who are pro-conservatives, pro-life, but I haven't heard anything about. But they're either pro-Israel or they just they don't care.
They're also they're pro-death penalty. They're pro-war. They're and you kind of touched on this. Like, they won't admit this, but there are a lot of people who are pro-life, mostly because they just don't like the idea of women having reproductive control. Not because they may not even fully understand that that's the case, but they're very uncomfortable with the idea of women having control over their lives and their reproduction.
Well, also, there's the other half of it. We're talking about abortion. So, welcome, Dana. But
everyone's favorite topic.
Yeah, right? So, the general thing, and then we'll get to the next part of the section that I can add to this is, first off, Kenneth Copeland, for instance.
Oh, God.
He gets to speak about fucking, demons and fucking, be against abortion. But, the amount of money he has $760 million net worth. And he has that, and, even just taking a little snippet off of that by selling off his fleet of private jets, which are worth over $10 million, including the hangar that he created for them. would give enough housing and food for like an army of babies, yo.
Mm-hmm.
And like, but these people don't want to do that. They don't want to sell. The rich man does not enter the kingdom of heaven. He's not willing to go like sell off all he has and follow Christ. And so, but the primary thing, I think it's even more insidious than hating women. I think that it's more insidious than that in the fact that women are just like pawns in their rhetorical toolkit. Like, for instance, they do, like, the war on terror, the rally around the flag effect, all these conservatives were all talking about, they hate us for our freedom. And, like, that was their rhetoric. I made a video recently about rhetorical loading. If anybody wants to watch me sweatily rant late at night, that's a video you can watch.
I think I watched it, but yeah, while I was dozing off.
Yeah, right? It's the soothing sounds of schizo before you sleep. So...
Well, yeah, you were, like, calm for most of it, but then you started yelling near the end.
You're like, fuck, I was trying to sleep. So... It's that, it's the immigrant horde is pouring like liquid over our borders. It's the demon rats and the red commie virus. We have to throw them out of helicopters because otherwise they're going to throw you up against the wall. It's always something. It's always a way to demonize the other. And in this particular case, like, recently, we've got very good example of that in the fucking Haitian scare. Like, the Haitian cannibal gangs took over Haiti after the recent disaster. No, they didn't. Shut the fuck up. You're believing an AI story. The guy that circulated that literally later admitted that he did it with fucking AI. And the reason his AI made that mistake is because he talked about a guy named Barbacoa, who admittedly has this weird sort of kinky habit of decapitating and taking all the limbs off of people and then putting them on barbecue spits. But, like, that doesn't mean that he ate them. That was just a humiliating way to kill somebody, which is bad enough, and I'm not defending it. But it's not cannibal gangs, and the idea that a cannibal gang took over Haiti was entirely fabricated by an AI. And then everybody ran with that. Everybody was posting the same fucking headline. And then, like, the Haitian fucking Haitians in this neighborhood are gonna come and eat your cat. They're gonna come and steal your dog and fucking rape it and fucking chew on it while they do. It's like the demonization. Blood libel, another conservative thing in the past, like fascist content, like being like, oh, Jews, the fucking blood drinking soaked in, and like all of that brings me to, oh, you're not pro-life, you must be pro-death. And it's this mentality of, if they can just create the worst, most villainous version of you in their minds and in the rhetorical zeitgeist, and then they can point at that and say, if you're not with us, you're with the baby killers. If you're not with us, you're with the migrants eating puppies and cats. If you're not with us, you're with the cannibal gangs. If you're not with us, you're with the Venezuelan gang taking over an apartment complex. If you're not with us, you're against us.
I thought we wanted to save the Venezuelans, though. We're concerned because,
Yeah.
Socialism bad, which, I mean, is objectively terrible, but,
you know what's good?
Want to allow the refugees here.
I just want to say to all the people who are upset about Venezuelan gangs taking over, well, it's kind of like a new election, and the nice part is, you don't have to fill out a W-2 to get extorted. It can just happen directly.
Yeah, but they also didn't do that. And that's one of the fun things, is when you realize how little there was there. And, like, there was no Venezuelan gang taking over an apartment complex. They didn't fucking do that. They had video of, like, 5 guys coming into one place, and then video of 2 of those 5 guys harassing that place and doing some fuck shit outside of it. And, like, they only went to that one fucking door. They weren't fucking going around to all the apartments and just knocking on everybody's door being like, yo, homie. They went to their homie's place. They found out he wasn't there. It's called rolling up, and anybody who's lived in any sort of urban and or, like, crime environment knows what they were actually doing. But they didn't care about that story because they're sheltered, echo-chambered little bitch babies, and they don't understand how any of this shit works. And more to the point, that's why they were totally fine circulating the story of the Hells Angels going there to fucking avenge people. Because as long as the fucking Hells Angels are the ones doing it, those people are like the white guys, right? So it's
wait, they're the guys now? I thought people were afraid of them for years.
Yeah, it's...
Okay, dude.
I mean, they are white, so I guess that tracks.
Okay, so I gotta step in here on a bunch of shit. The Hells Angels would never do any of that because that's way too much out of their zone. I'm a biker person, never dealt with the Hells Angels, but dealt with a lot of bike clubs. They're not doing that because they have way too much other heat on top of them to actually do that, and they're not doing it.
Yeah.
And the Haitian dudes, I may or may not kill things that might walk across my land or be across my creek or do things, and like they're in the urban area now and they don't know any better because I don't know, the Clintons helped fuck up their shit, and that year that they did that, there's a lot going on with this whole thing.
Yes.
Yeah. So the Clintons fucked up the Haitians.
But hey, shut the fuck up. You're not allowed to say context. Context and conservatives are allergic to each other. Go ahead. Sorry.
Exactly. I mean, I stand corrected. Context yeah.
Context, more like communism.
The Clintons are great and the Haitians are bad and they're eating all the aminals. Yeah. I mean, I would swear that any of those city folk who just like hang out up north for like 5 fucking seconds and they'd be like, oh my God, they eat all the things we do. It happens. We eat the things. We sometimes go in our own yard and like kill our own shit and eat it. Oh my God. It's called farming. Anyway.
Yeah.
Well,
so eating
like
random like squirrels and stuff in the yard, like or in your neighborhood, that's like U.S. rednecks have been doing that forever.
Yeah.
And also, why are they crying about geese from parks? Like in my city, like they do a yearly call of all the geese because there are so many and they're considered a nuisance. And I think at the very least they've been able to like donate the meat to homeless shelters because otherwise it all goes to waste.
Yeah. Like Rose.
I don't care if someone's killing geese at the park, okay? I frankly don't. Like, I feel like if you're going to argue about unchecked immigration under a city system, you can come up with much better arguments than, but they're killing the ducks and geese from our parks. Like, that's just a stupid talking point.
Dude, Rose, have you guys had like a minor, like a more mild winter the past few years? So like your populations of everything are like out of control?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the other day, I literally ran out of my front door.
Everywhere.
Yeah, I ran out of my front door screaming at the bunnies. My dogs are looking at the bunnies like, are we supposed to chase the bunnies? They look like the cats. I'm like, well, you're supposed to chase them. My dogs wouldn't chase them. They're eating my shit. And I'm like, why do we have these? I'm like praying for the coyotes to come back because I'm like, we got rid of all the coyotes. We need them back, you know. Maybe we should move some Haitians up here. They can help me with my rabbit population.
well, what you got to do with those rabbits? So if you want like a fast and easy way to do it, look up. And I don't know if you already know this, but
my husband has a plan. It probably is a little more violent than yours, but okay, go ahead.
The thing that this is fast and easy for is it removes the skin at the same time as dealing with them. It's called broomsticking. And it's a technique where you break their neck and it kills them, and it immediately you pull them up by their feet, and it immediately also pulls their skin off because it's kind of thin. So you would just need to stun them, broomstick them, and you would have a meat source. All I'm saying.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm not sure if that's any easier than what we normally do, but yeah. But like we haven't had a lot of bunnies and now we have a shit ton, and yeah.
Yeah.
And we may or may not eat them, and we might be Haitian refugees or something after that. I mean,
well, just make sure if you do, so you can get. I don't know if you know about this, but it's like what I do with all of my fucking food. Like you get you go to Walmart.com and you can spend like, and I'm not sponsored by the way. You can spend like fucking $6 to $8 depending on the moment on like a 4-pound bucket of lard. And the reason I'm saying this is because there's a concept called rabbit starvation, and I'm mostly saying this because we're in content mode, like, and so somebody out there might like actually watch this. So if you out there want to start cooking a lot of rabbit, just make sure you balance it out with a lot of the other nutrients that rabbits don't have a lot of, because it's a very lean meat.
Yeah, you're not getting enough fat if you only eat rabbits.
Yeah,
like they're a good animal to raise because they reproduce fast, but you gotta raise something else alongside them.
Yeah,
exactly.
You can never have on that. So that's more of a thing that you kill because you want to get rid of it, and it's food at the same time.
Yeah.
But back to abortion.
Yeah, but you know,
I came in late to this, so I was like covering.
We're gonna talk about those broomstick abortions.
Yeah, you just gotta pull them out and break their neck and.
Then you can. There was actually like hoax that went around at one point that people were eating roast fetus.
Yeah.
It was a delicacy in some places.
It was such a. They're always dumb. They're always pulling this dumb shit and hoping that it catches on and scares somebody out of their Democrat. But it doesn't happen most of the time, and it just makes them look dumb and out of touch. You
remember the Man Burgers site?
No.
Oh, yeah. Like, there was this whole thing where, like, supposedly people would donate their bodies to Man Burgers after they died. Burgers.
I like that.
Like, there were all these testimonials saying, oh, yeah, we love our Man Burgers. And, like, it was seriously pissing people off because they thought it was real.
That would be hilarious if somebody tried that, because they would just be, like, spreading prions around.
Yeah.
You can't just eat people. It doesn't work. Okay, and here's something real quick before we get back to abortion.
You can, but you want to cook it thoroughly and don't eat the brain.
So the thing about it is
nervous system tissue.
But it's not just the brain though. So you can.
But does it have enough fat?
It does. But here's the thing. Like you gotta like the reason I say even if you're in a survival situation you can't just eat people is like, first off, that person is valuable. I don't care if you're like on the top of a mountain, right? In a snowy avalanche, fucking blah blah. I don't care if there's like a fire that's raging around you and there's no food sources for miles. What I'm going to tell you is that person is valuable, and they're valuable because like they can be your lookout. They can like help you build things at the site. They can help remember where markers are. Somebody has a use for that person. So you don't eat the person that like seems less useful. You find a use for them. Otherwise you're stupid. And then the secondary thing is prions are not just in the brain. You can find prions in literally all nervous tissue. So the spinal column and like any like large dense connection, and anywhere there are nerves. So really, if you look up, you can look this up, and I've looked it up because like I was vaguely interested in the concept of cannibalism a while back. And so I looked this up, and there's a nerve map that you can find of just like all the nerves in the human body, and like the only real area, ironically, because Alex Jones was talking about this, that you might be at all safe with is the ass. So like when Alex Jones says, "I'm gonna eat your ass, I will eat your ass," he's actually kind of, on point there. It would be the only part, and that's why it's like doubly a waste, because they could be putting their ass to work, and instead you're just eating that part and leaving the rest of them. Like, what? Like, so it doesn't make any sense. It's not logistically feasible, and it's not nutritionally feasible. You're gonna turn into a zombie, and it's a bad move. So don't eat survivors of fucking... Okay,
but prion diseases are not that common, at least not in this part of the world. I mean, okay, yeah, if they're alive, they can help out, but okay, if I'm stuck on the top of a mountain for some reason because I decided to do something stupid like climb a mountain, and my hiking partner dies, I'm eating them.
That's up to you, but it is a risk. And definitely start with the ass.
Yep. It's the most tender part too, and it's very fatty. So there's the fat consumption problem.
Except the fat consumption, and he can help you get back down the mountain without an ass.
Yeah,
I've heard the biceps are good.
Well, you know,
he needs his biceps.
According to who was it? I think it was Jeffrey Dahmer who said that the biceps were one of the best parts.
Well, the general vibe is like, if you want to take that risk, I mean, that's your body, their body, your choice. But the general thing that I would say is avoid it, because you don't know who has that disease, and we still don't know really the extent or the durability of these things, and I kind of just don't want to take the risk. I would rather use them as an actual member of the team if I can at all do that.
Right. Did you see that article that went viral in like hiking circles years ago on how to eat your hiking partner? It was like semi-satirical, but also like serious. Like, it's telling you what parts to eat and how to like harvest their how to harvest them.
We'll do like an anti-survival show someday. We'll say like what not to do, and we'll include that guide. But like, send it to me prior. It sounds interesting. So the next,
I'm wondering how you people are hiking and not bringing snacks.
Well, I mean, typically when I hike, all I bring is a water, and I just eat a shit ton before I do that. And so I've been known to just on a single like large container of water go for like 14 to 18 miles on a run/hike through places. So
I don't even carry water. This is the Northeast. You can find water if you're looking for it.
If I'm eating somebody's ass, it sounds like I brought a rather tasty snack with me.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Yeah, you know, and you know, it's nice foreplay, because if it's still warm, then you might be able to loosen that rigor mortis up with your tongue. Anyway, now that we
honey, you guys need to hike with me. I bring snacks. I bring like a whole backpack full of stuff hiking. Down the river, I bring like a whole canoe full of snacks. Like, yeah, we're never not eating if I'm there.
Sounds like a plan.
I just hate having to carry anything if I'm out hiking.
Which reminds
I will carry it.
I move as fast as I can.
Which I'll definitely do if I'm ever up in, speaking of Haitian geese, Michigander. That was a bad joke. I had to do it though. So the next,
you again?
Yeah, right. The next thing, what is it? So the project opposes any initiatives that, in its view, subsidize single parenthood. Here's where it gets real dark, because this goes right to what Hody was talking about earlier. I can see his face already. He's angry now, very, and for good reason, because it gets exactly as bad as you think. Project 2025 encourages the next administration to rescind some of the provisions of the Family Planning Services and Population Research Act of 70, enacted as Title 10 of the Public Health Service Act, which offers reproductive health care services, and to require participating clinics to emphasize the importance of marriage to potential parents. Severino writes in Project's manifesto that the FDA is ethically and legally obligated to revisit and withdraw its initial approval of the abortion pills mifepristone and misoprostol. He also recommends that the CDC update its messaging about the unsurpassed effectiveness of modern fertility awareness-based methods of contraception, such as smartphone apps that track a woman's menstrual cycle. Severino says that the ASIS should require that every state report exactly how many abortions take place within its borders, and at what gestational age of the child, for what reason, the mother's state of residence, and by what method. The project seeks to restore Trump-era religious and moral exemptions to contraceptive requirements under the Affordable Care Act, including emergency contraception, which it deems an abortifacient, to defund the Planned Parenthood program, and to remove protection of medical records involving abortions from criminal investigations if the owners of said records cross state lines. If Project 2025 contributor Emma Waters told Politico, "I've been very concerned with just the emphasis on expanding more and more contraception." According to her, Project 2025's policy recommendations constitute not restrictions, but rather medical safeguards for women. Waters said she wanted the NIH to investigate the long-term effects of contraception. We'll move on after we discuss this.
Again, selectivity, right? We don't want to end all subsidies, but anything that would benefit not us, we're going to get rid of. Like, we're keeping those church subsidies. Absolutely. You want to start a religious organization? Be welcome. We're happy to have you here. We'll give you all the exemptions, but, oh, you want to be a single mom? No. Like I said, Christians, you might find that you have an issue with this kind of thing, and with single moms, and again, you're lending that abortion problem we talked about earlier. If you really think it's a problem, then you're just contributing more to it. Like, especially people, like I said, don't feel they have financial support as a single mom. So you're proposing contradictory proposals here. But even if you do, for some reason, think like being a single mom is like a sin and worth like discriminating against more than like churches and everything, then let society play that out. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. God will punish sinners. Your job is not to punish. Your job is to love. You are not loving people when you are punishing them. You are not loving people when you're treating them differently than you. It says love your neighbor as yourself, right? And who is your neighbor? Your neighbor is the Samaritan, right? Your neighbor is the sinner. Your neighbor is somebody that you have a real problem with. That's your neighbor. This is just the kind of stuff that's just so... It's the stuff that the left will harp on Project 2025 about, and they deserve it because it's terrible.
Yep. Kareem is typing an angry letter to Trump.
Yeah. I am sad dude.
So, anybody else got some words before we move on?
Well, the biggest thing for me, as someone who was a single mom, just... how did they subsidize me? Like, I would love to know that. Like, they're saying how they would subsidize me if they could have, but they didn't. And it's just, yeah, you didn't follow our religious rules and stay married to the shitty person you were married to because our rule said you had to, and now you're single. I mean, when my kids were young, like, Michigan here, we had what was called Michigan Healthy Kids, and you had to pay for it. So you paid a monthly fee to get this shitty health insurance for your children. And there was no such thing as Plan B back then, and like all the things. And like, I'm just trying, like, it was so vague on how they said we're going to subsidize single moms. And then they said, oh, but we're not going to subsidize this and this. Well, Plan B doesn't make a mom. It makes a not mom. So it didn't make a lot of sense, and that's just one of those many authoritarian parts of 2025 that just is vague. I mean, vague is the best way to put it, and you're not me, and you're not doing what I said you should do. Again, authoritarianism, which is nothing new.
Right. Now, at best, like, you might have a slightly easier time getting things like food stamps, which, again, I mean, look, the state-run welfare system sucks, so it would be a lot better if it was replaced with mutual aid. However, those were regulated out of existence for the most part, and we are forced to pay into this shitty status welfare system. So for as long as we're forced to pay into it, you might, like, I don't judge people for making use of it. So I don't judge, a single mom for getting food stamps or, for taking advantage of like state-run child health care programs or something.
I think also dystopian here is the fact that they want to go after the information about contraceptives,
right,
like preventing children. That is, I mean, they're telling you right now, we want to control your information. Like,
well, yeah, with the phone thing.
Yeah, people deserve to know what a contraceptive is. They deserve to learn about it. I gotta say, if the public schools taught nothing, like, the less they teach, the better. I have nothing great to say about public schools, but my goodness, like, if you want to get the kids to not bang each other and create less of like a difficult parenting situation, Like, I'm disappointed the public schools don't teach enough life skills. But now, like, that you're like, well, yeah, you can teach them all that other stuff that we tell you can teach them in the schools, as long as they reading the unedited Dr. Seuss book that has still the racisms that Dr. Seuss regretted. They can read that in schools, and they can read the Bible in schools, which has all kinds of out of wedlock kids and pornography and strippers and weird relationships and everything. But oh no, we're out as soon as you want to tell our kids about, like, hey, you don't have to get pregnant from having sex here. People were having sex outside of wedlock in the Bible and trying their best not to have kids. That's some weird stuff. Thank goodness we have birth control now, guys.
Yeah, abstinence-only sex ed does not prevent pregnancy at all. Like, I feel like this has been so thoroughly debunked at this point that you have to be a complete idiot to keep pushing for it. And, like, I actually have I'm all for contraception. I actually have some pretty significant concerns about hormonal contraceptives. Like, I'm pro-contraception. I'm not, like, against this idea that they want to do more research into the effects. Like, we need better contraception that doesn't thoroughly fuck up your endocrine system and potentially fuck it up for years going forward. Like, I think there is a lot wrong with modern birth control pills that a lot of it is, like, a lot of women don't make the connection, and a lot of doctors seem shockingly unaware of what the side effects actually are. But yeah, doesn't mean I'm anti-contraception. We do need better options.
And, like, for like that part, I'll just remind people that the same Vice that was telling people not to eat horse paste was, like, talking about ivermectin and all, was, like, the same Vice magazine that was totally okay with telling people how to make their own at-home abortion pills by crushing up horse sized misoprostol tablets.
No, there are various ways to get it. It's also used for stomach ulcers.
So, like,
there's a significant black market for it too, and now there's an even bigger one now because,
So Vice was totally okay with being part of that problem, and, like, I'm not against, like, these pills, but what I will say is that when you have one of those without the other, it does not go well for you. And so, like, you need both at the same time. And there are plenty of people on all sides who don't understand that, and who think that, like, fucking, it's just like any of these pills are just like, here's a baby killer. And so, like, a lot of them, like, might, like, restrict certain elements of somebody's healthcare and end up damaging them. So I just thought I would say that.
Where did you hear that? Because mifepristone isn't an anti-progestogen that will halt fetal development. Misoprostol will trigger uterine contractions. So theoretically, if you take just the misoprostol, it will still cause you to expel the pregnancy, regardless of whether or not it has halted development beforehand. So I'm pretty sure you can use one without the other, but both are preferable.
Well, that's the thing. Both are preferable because of that. Dana can probably, like, she's got something to say.
Well, I was going to say, I could go out to my yard and find 3 or 4 things growing wild in the state of Michigan that would cause it. And another 3 or 4 things that I'm growing in my garden as an herb that would cause it. Like Queen Anne's lace. It grows all in the Northwest.
Oh, yeah, we have that.
The seeds to that will cause an abortion.
Really?
Yeah. According to the ancient text, eat Queen Anne's lace seeds and you shall not keep your baby in your womb parts. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Queen Anne's lace, cinnamon, lemon balm and certain extractions. All kinds of stuff will do that thing. Like I said, I could find most of it growing here that I grew and then more growing in the woods. And yeah, there's many.
Yeah,
are they safe? Are they all safe? No, because you have too much lemon balm, you might fall asleep forever because it's a sedative too, but it will also induce things, and cinnamon and all the things, if you want to induce, if you really want to not use pharmaceuticals, you can, but God forbid that we should do that either, because
right. That's
they're gonna tell me I can't grow cinnamon anymore, so I'm gonna shut up now.
Yeah, that's what the radically anti-abortion crowd doesn't understand. Like, women have been terminating unwanted pregnancies for basically ever. They found various remedies which would do that. So that's going away.
The reason I brought up not doing them in conjunction is, let's say you do the one that reduces development, but don't do the one that expels it. It could stay in there. And let's say you do the one that expels.
It should cause a miscarriage, but it might not, and then that's a problem.
And let's say you do the one that expels it, but it doesn't stop development. It could cause issues for the actual ability to develop later, because you're not doing it in conjunction. There have been studies I can link you to that have fertility issues after only having one or the other.
Yeah. That's
so if you
something that none of this addresses, no matter how many ways we figure out how we can kill an unborn child, it comes back to the community. If you have a good community around you, you're not gonna eject the unborn child. You're gonna go and have it. You're gonna do the thing like I did. I did the thing, and I bought a house. I did everything I had to do because I had a good community around me, and that's what you have to have, is that community that lifts that person up. All right, cool. You're pregnant. Let's do the thing. Let's get you diapers. Let's get you work. Let's do what we got to do to make you function. That's what we're missing in this freaking stupid country, is how do we make them feel like they can keep this baby and do the thing?
Well, that sounds like communism. Are you a red?
I know. Yeah.
Yeah. Why aren't you in favor of making people pull themselves up by their own bootstraps?
No, they're boob straps. Ha.
Boob straps.
Yeah.
Right, because we shouldn't help them, because the government's going to help them better with the food stamps and all the things. My bad. We should never help our own people. The government will help our people. They're the bestest. My bad.
So, the next section of this is it's all part of the same section, but in Project 2025's DOJ section, Gene Hamilton calls for enforcement of federal law against using the U.S. Postal Service for the transportation of medicines that induce abortion. Seeks to revive provisions of the Comstock Act of the 1870s that banned mail delivery of, quote, any instrument, substance, drug, medicine, or thing, end quote, that could be used for an abortion. Congress and the courts have since narrowed the Comstock laws, allowing contraceptives to be delivered by mail. Project 2025 aims to enforce Comstock more rigorously at the national level to prohibit sending abortion pills and medical equipment used for abortions through the mail. The plan would allow criminal prosecutions for senders and receivers of abortion pills. Project 2025 does not explicitly promote the prohibition of abortion, but some legal experts and abortion rights advocates said adopting the project's plan would cut off access to medical equipment used in surgical abortions to create a de facto national abortion ban. One section would have use federal funding to force states to report every unsuccessful pregnancy, including the cause and the mother's state of residence. One section would have... I'm tired. Regarding the issue of preventing teenage pregnancy, Project 2025 advises the FedGov to deprecate what it considers promotion of abortion and high-risk sexual behaviors among adolescents. It also seeks to remove the role of the DOH and Human Services in shaping sex ed in the United States, arguing this is tantamount to creating a monopoly.
So they want to track all miscarriages, and they want to basically do an investigation anytime there's a miscarriage.
This is why it was...
That's not invasive or anything. That's not a major surveillance state.
This was why it sort of was understandable when people were making Handmaid's Tale references about this.
Yeah. Boom.
What?
I said boom. I was just figuring out how can I share a screen to put a Handmaid's Tale thing up, right?
Yeah.
And that's I know, and that's what's annoying about it, because normally I find those references really fucking annoying, but
like
yeah,
and like it's sort of like it's Handmaid's Tale and Man in High Castle and that sort of thing combined, because like you've got, it's just fascism. It's all fascism. You've got internment camps for minorities. You've got cracking down on sexual deviance and other sorts of deviance. You've got like a cultural bulwark against women's reproductive health, a cultural bulwark of Christian nationalism, but not actual Christianity, which means that they're taking a page right out of Hitler's playbook and like literally only enforcing certain parts of Western civilization in an attempt to say that like, oh, this has to be preserved. It's that. It's just that. It's all this. It's just that all over again. And I hate it for some reason. This was why when a bunch of people were trying to pretend that it was a useless freak out over nothing, I hated them. Because fuck those people. This is actually really fucking bad.
I mean, in all fairness, you hate a lot of people.
Yes.
Well, I mean, did Atwood get like a copy of 2025 when she started writing her books?
No, she used the divine magic of birth control, and it stirred her brain up and made her hysterical, and she wrote that complete work of fiction.
I figured that, you know, I'm of the age that I would either be a Martha or work at Jezebel's. Hopefully Jezebel's. It sounds like more fun than being a Martha.
Plus, the name Jezebel sounds like jizz, so that's funny.
Yeah, all day long.
And like conservatives have no ability right now to kind of identify their cultural issues. Like anybody who watched the RNC versus the DNC, and like you look at what the GOP had and what they brought out for their conference, and it was anti-stepmom. There was several references to her being interracial, and what's funny is even though JD Vance is interracially married, even discriminating her interracial marriage. And I'm saying this is like from the pulpit. This isn't like a couple of fringe YouTubers. Like these are people getting in front of the convention, writing a speech and deciding, yeah, you know what? I'll go ahead and say step parents are childless. That sounds like a good idea. That's like, we want to discriminate against step parents and stuff too. So you think about like what this cultural rot is going to do and what it will rot for the Republican Party. You look at they were interviewing people on the floor about if they still believed in free markets anymore. I don't know if you guys saw this or whatever. The average person was just like, no. No. Like at this point, the tariff, like, and I'm not just talking about like the tariffs, but including like government spending. Government should control it, and they shouldn't be giving it to this people, and they should be giving it to these people. And why is this? Because they left even the rhetoric of liberty behind. Republicans haven't been doing liberty for a long time. I think everybody on this call is pretty well aware of that. And if you're listening like you to the show and you have listened to it, you're at least aware that they haven't been doing liberty for a long time. But they usually virtue signal liberty. The problem is with them abandoning even the virtue signaling of liberty. Who picked it up this last time? Who were the ones at the conventions holding up signs that said freedom? And which ones held up signs that said mass deportations now? Which ones held up signs that said USA and liberty? And which ones held up signs that were just like, what was the other? It was, I see, this is why I need to write down these speeches. But basically, they've abandoned free markets. They've abandoned their values. They don't even virtue signal them that now. At least when they were virtue signaling freedom, you could be like, well, at least maybe they like it's something they hope to aspire to, or at least like what the libertarian argument for Trump is always like, well, he might not do it, but at least we can point out that he said he would do it and call him a liar when he doesn't do it. Yeah, right. I mean, this happened last time too, guys. He said he was going to do it and didn't do it. How many times is he going to pull this shtick and you're going to believe it? Like, it's just like the thing is because that culture is so far gone. And because they are so willing to just part with those values, that they're they're getting worse. And I'm going to give you an example now from the left wing of somebody who like knew what the right thing was and didn't do it. And I think it's perfect for this section we're talking about here. But Joe Biden, what did he do for his son when his son was addicted to drugs?
Yep.
To help him out. He shoved opportunities down Hunter's throat. He was like, no, let's get you into academies. Let's bypass this. Are the authorities looking for you? Let's hide in my basement. Let's make sure you don't get caught. Let's get you the help you need. Let's have you talk to these therapists. Let's get you cleaned up. Let's get you on rehab. Let's have you talk to these X, Y, and Z therapists. What did Joe Biden do? What did he say before Congress when he was crafting the legislation while he knew his son was having this drug problem? He said, well, I'm pushing for the death sentence, but the Republicans over there are too lily-livered about it. So we're going to compromise and do mandatory minimums. And he did the mimic. There's that famous, with him talking about this speech where he's holding the bars and he's going to be like, as long as they're far away from you and your loved ones. Joe Biden knew what the right thing to do was for somebody who was addicted to drugs, but he chose to do the wrong thing.
Yep.
Republicans, you know what the right thing to do is for people considering getting abortions. You know what the right thing to do is for somebody who's struggling, somebody who's got mental problems, somebody who's a single mom. You know what works.
For an immigrant. You
actually have to choose to do it. Or an immigrant, right. Like all these people that you say you love. When you adopt a culture that all of a sudden says, we don't even care about virtue signaling life anymore, are you going to be at all surprised that Republicans stop caring about life? Look at Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. Just months ago, J.D. Vance was like, if you cave on abortion, like you can't be trusted as a leader. And him and Donald Trump caved on abortion. Now, I'm glad they did. Don't get me wrong. And they kind of did a take backsies thing, and that's a whole different conversation. I know we don't have time to get into as far as like their stance on abortion, but this is the whole thing. It's not an actual value for them. And why? Because they stopped even virtue signaling about life. So they stopped caring about life. You don't care about life. Republicans don't care about life. You haven't cared about it for so long. You haven't said jack crap about the hate crimes committed against the Haitians based on a lie that you guys ran with. Why in the hell do I think you would give a shit about if all of a sudden there's a single mom wondering if she should make that decision or not? You've proven to them you don't care over and over again. So the world has moved on as though you don't care, and your ideology has moved on from any semblance of value. You no longer believe anything. You are just this husk. This is why I don't like republicanism. I don't understand its purpose right now. It has no purpose. Like at least the left like pretends to love people, but they don't. The right just like pretends to hate people and then does successfully sometimes. I don't know. I'm getting, that's a whole different tangent, but this is a cultural issue that's what I'm trying to get across here. Well, we have failed at the cultural level, and this is why we see this.
I mean, we could go even further back. I mean, like, we can go all the way back to the 1800s on this shit. Like, we can go, like, let's literally go back to the 1700s. Like, I don't know, they were going to reform the Articles of Confederation, right? And they were going to, tweak them just a little. And then they got the Constitution. And then, like, the ink was barely dry when Washington was violating it, right? And then, like a couple years later, the Supreme Court violated when they said they were like the supreme rulers of the universe. And that's why Spooner in the 1860s was like, the Constitution, whatever it may be, it either created what we have or it was powerless to stop it. I mean, like, this has been going on for so long. Mm-hmm. And in my lifetime, I was born in 1972 and we got the new drug war after the old drug war was over, and then we got the new super special drug war, and then Reagan amped it up, and then Clinton amped it up, and then Bush amped it up. I mean, and we just kept making the drug war worse, and then the mandatory minimums and the 3 strikes law and all the things, and that's just the drug war. So, like, we go back to Spooner. This was all created by that piece of paper that they ignore anyway. Then they ignore it till they say, oh, well, it gives us this power, when it really doesn't, but nobody reads it. And this is why try to hide on my property as much as I can. I mean, do you realize it's so that way?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I guess then, because we're edging up on like we've been streaming for 2 hours, so I think this sort of closes the subject for now-ish. So we'll do this. We'll do a closing statement from Kareem, a closing statement from Dana, from Hody, and from Rose. That is, unless Kareem is dead.
He's not
yet, because I'm an ACAP man, an ACAP stand.
Nope, still not.
I'm just tired, so I turn my camera off. But to close out Project 2025, it seems like typical authoritarian BS, whether it's from the Heritage Foundation or from a left-leaning institution. And as far as I'm concerned, people will always be better off when you leave them alone. Things will not be perfect. I think Benjamin Tucker said the anarchists never said that freedom would bring perfection. It's just vastly better to what authoritarians offer. And that's the way I look at it. That this is all trying to control people in different ways, whether it's through their reproductive rights or whether it's through surveillance or whether it's just because I don't like what somebody's doing. I think the weirdest thing about statism to me is not so much like, okay, the extortion, all this, but that somebody is sitting in their house. Somebody is somewhere is like, I don't like people doing this. Now, there are behaviors I don't like vaping. I don't like drinking in public particularly. But I don't sit, like, I'm at home now. I'm not sitting there being annoyed at something that somebody else is doing, unless it is really harmful. But and even if it is, if it's not something that's violating the non-aggression principle, I'm pretty cool with people doing it. So that's the biggest thing is live your life and leave other people alone. I think more often than not we'll be okay. And you can find me at Kareem663, 6633 on X, Anarch Unity, Essential Libertarians on Jeremiah Talks. Go check out my video with ThoughtBat and my debate with Liquid Zulu.
Dana.
Okay. So I already did Spooner, none of this matters anyway, kind of Spooner. But yeah, you just, again, I will reiterate, get your people together, get your community together. Ignore what they're doing, because what they're doing is never going to help you. It's never going to help you. They're always going to do what they're going to do. They're going to bomb brown people other places. They're going to drug war. They're going to put people in cages, and you just have to help everyone you can. Like if somebody gets put in a cage because of the drug war, you help feed their family. That's what we do. That is what we've always done in my world. We take care of the people. We take care of the families left behind by whatever the government does to them. And it's going to be Reagan's project that Heritage gave out to him, or Clinton's project, or whoever's project. It's always going to be there, and you have to counteract it and just help your neighbors as much as you can and get your communities. And I always forget to say where I could be reached. My best place to try to get in touch with me is Libertarians in Michigan discussion. I check on that at least once or twice a week.
Cool. Hody.
I think one of the biggest questions we need to ask ourselves is how we got here. How did we get to a point where something like Project 2025 can be proposed and you're not immediately laughed out of the room? How do we get to a point where Project 2025 is not only being proposed, but being proposed by people who have been in these positions of power, being people who will and likely will be, at least to some degree, Trump appointees, given positions where they deserve to be on, some of them at least will be around him. They are advising him. How did we get to this point? Because it's obviously ridiculous. It's obviously untrue. And I would look at this way. that there is a temptation to hold the ring of power that is government,
right,
and to wield it. A lot of libertarians will give the excuse like, well, it's imperfect, but we'll try its best. And there's a difference between libertarians who see government as like the minarchist libertarians. There may be even some here. I know there's some listening. And with all fairness to you, I do think that there is a difference between the libertarians who say government is a poison that will kill, leech, destroy everything it touches, and will only virtue signal to do good but will really serve the interests of evil. And government that, oh, well, we could try its best and it'll never be perfect, but it's at least better than the status quo. When Jesus was given the opportunity to assume the kingdom of all governments on the entire planet, he declined it. Why would you decline it if you think you can do any degree of good? Even if you think it's only good for now, because Jesus was quite clear that a lot of the poor that he would be helping would be poor for their entire lives. A lot of the sick that he healed would get sick again and pass away. A lot of the wounds that he healed would reopen up and the people would die. Why do any of that work at all if you can say, well, yeah, government, maybe he can do it as well as he can, and yeah, it'll eventually go away, and things will get bad, but at least you can do something good in the meantime, right? Wrong. Government is never doing anything good in the meantime, or for a little bit, or for the short term. They're always planning on the long term. Look at Social Security. From the beginning, it never had a bank account to go to. It was never collecting interest as was promised. It was always a pyramid scheme. That was the plan for it. That was the plan for it from the beginning. You can do this with any government institution. The plan for it from the beginning is for it to be abused. It is there so that power-hungry people can take advantage of it. Now, I do believe that there are well-meaning people who do get involved with the government that they attempt to fix it.
Some of them I'm sure, are good people. There are good people, fine people on both sides.
But what happens to them after long enough? Think of the ones who have been in politics the longest. Your Pelosi's, your Reeds, your Bidens. What happens? Do they become better people? Do they really fight tooth and nail to the end? You look at what AOC did with the immigrants. She's not posing pictures crying about them anymore. That's unfortunate. She's pretending to get arrested by police officers for protesting different things. Not her own party, of course. That would be something else, right? Somebody who I actually thought actually genuinely believed what she believed. I still believe that. But she abandoned it. Why? Because this is government. This is how it works. You might get involved for good reasons, but it's not going to stay good for long. You might pour pure water into a filthy toilet, but that pure water is not going to stay pure for long. If Jesus Christ himself and his purity was not good enough to fix the government or make it look good, it's not going to work. Jesus's purity was not, I don't want to say good enough, because it's incompatible with government. It is the toilet water. It is the used, filthy, stinking toilet bowl. And there's no pouring enough pure water in there to get it to a drinkable state. You should not drink it. And Republicans have constantly been making excuse after excuse for these governments. And unfortunately, the right-leaning libertarians have been doing the same thing. You know what? Let's throw the left ones in there too, because you'll see them make the same excuses for, well, yeah, it's bad and it's global warming, but okay. It's some pharmaceutical stuff and it's bad, but whatever. Enough with the excuses. Enough. Every time we justify something or don't say something, nationalism gets just a little bit stronger. And you'll notice it if you pay attention. This is what I want to stress to you. Pay attention to the culture. Yeah. Pay attention to what's changing. Recognize when libertarians are saying right-wing loco things that they wouldn't have said 2 years ago without getting rejected. This has absolutely happened. Look what the Libertarian Party did for the Trump campaign. If you told me they were going to do that 2 years ago, if you told them they were going to do that 2 years ago, they'd have laughed in your stupid face. But you would have been right. It's messed up, right? And here it is. What's happened? The Libertarian Party is more connected to a major party than ever before. Our chair has that guy on speed dial. She visited him at Mar-a-Lago. We're getting more connected with politics. And what's happening to the soul of the Libertarian Party? Selling out on immigration, selling out on pro-life, on pro-choice values, selling out on the death penalty, selling out on even music, selling out on religion, selling out on freedom of speech, selling out on war. Sell out, sell out, sell out, because this is what government wants you to do. When you come to the table, they want you to put your chips in, and they have the deck stacked against you. You will sell out. You will go bankrupt. Project 2025 is the culmination of that. It is purely a step in this process. We're going to be talking something about Project 2030 in 5 years. Project 2035 5 years after that, because it's just going to grow and get worse unless we do something about the culture. We have to do something about the culture. Focus on the culture. Focus on yourself. Focus on taking the plank out of your own eye. If you're a right-leaning libertarian, you know what that plank is. It is very obvious. It might be scary to address it, but now is the time. If you're a left-leaning libertarian and you've seen your friends go down the tanky pipeline, now's the time. You've seen it. We've witnessed it over and over again. You know what to do. Take the plank out of your own eye. We've all got the plank. We as anarchists have seen, especially the anarchist movement, fall to shreds when we failed to say something to somebody who, that might be a little fashy, but maybe they're on our side. No more excuses. I'm not saying we have to kick everybody out of our movements, but we need to stop and correct and change. Otherwise, if we just get used to going with the flow in our own circles, of course we're going to go with the flow in government circles. That's what it wants you to do. Don't go with the flow. Lovingly but sternly correct people that are in your circles that you see going down the wrong path. Project 2025 is the representation of what happens when we fail to do that, and it's only going to get worse until we say no instead of silently shutting up or making excuses for at least people trying to do their best. No more. We're doing the right thing and we're condemning the wrong things. The two things don't mix. No more pure water mixed with toilet water. We're not doing it anymore. Thanks so much for having me on, guys. Again, Hody Johns, Love First Christians, and I look forward to seeing y'all around.
Yeah, maybe next time we'll do it when people are less exhausted, because, yeah. Rose.
Yeah, we got started pretty late. Anyway, I've said this before, but ultimately, Project 2025 is a wish list. Like, lobbying groups are constantly putting out these sort of documents detailing things that they wish the government would do during every election season. So I've said before, like, I'm not going to start panicking over it preemptively. However, it does indicate certain, it shows, like, where one side of the political spectrum, like, is. Like, it shows what they're most concerned about. It shows, like, what direction they want to take the country in. So that is useful on its own. Like, okay, if these people were given power, these are the types of things they would do. So, while I'm not going to panic, I also don't think it's worth just saying, oh, that's just a document, or it's like Trump saying, oh, I have nothing to do with that, it's not a concern. Like, it is, but it's, yeah, most of this stuff will thankfully probably not happen. Anyway, you can all find me on most social media. As usual, thanks for having me.
Thanks y'all for coming on. And what I'll say, I'll keep it simple and short. Recognize the signs of a cultural decline going to the same place that it's been. Because we've seen this happen before. Recognize the patterns. Recognize that, even if, and this is the thing, even if it's not Trump, even if it's like not his Project 2025, it's going to be something equally bad in the Kamala camp. Recognize that the only way out of this is showing people what government is in its barest forms, in its most essential components, and recognize that we need to move past this notion that getting our side control is going to solve shit, that getting our side relevance is going to solve anything. What we need to do is stop trying to get relevance from the groups where relevance is like earned through the blood of the innocent and through the, like, sacrifice of principle, and instead choose to be relevant on our own terms, instead of, like, sacrificing our ethics and our integrity to whatever organization we gotta pimp ourselves to in order to make sure that we're on their page. We gotta write our own book, because their book is their history book. They are the victors in this blood-soaked empire conquest bullshit that's been killing us and raping us and destroying us for as long as time has been. So we need to recognize these cultural trends and recognize that the biggest empire in history is trying to get so many upgrades, and until we realize and stop all of these upgrades, until we realize and get away from this structure entirely, we will never do anything to smash the fucking state.